level. This is why.
All right, guys, we're back with another video. Today, we're going to talk about a major topic going on in baseball this week, and that is the reinstatement of Pete Rose. He is now eligible to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Is that, the big question, is that going to hurt the integrity of the game of baseball? We'll talk about that and maybe a few other things. But remember, if you are looking to get help in the recruiting process, scan this QR code, fill out the form. We will meet with you and talk about what we do, see if it's the right fit for you. Hit the like button on this video to help us out in the algorithm. Subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. That way, when a new video is posted or we go live and a lot of our daily streams, you know exactly when those are going live or coming out. All right. Thank you for all your support, and we'll get right into the topic now. Guys, Pete Rose has been reinstated into Major League Baseball. Right now, he can be voted into the Hall of Fame. There's a big discussion and debate. Is this going to hurt the overall integrity of the game? Well, I don't even think that's the right question to be asking. You can have an opinion on Pete Rose. I understand the guys who say, man, he gambled on the game. He should never be reinstated. I understand the arguments of people saying, you know what? He did his time. He paid his dues. And they're upset because, Rob Manfred kind of waited for him to pass away to do this. It's like, if you were going to do it, you might as well have done it before he passed away. And so I understand both sides, but can we just step back and take a minute to discuss hurting the integrity of the game? Are we really going to act like the reinstating of Pete Rose and whether he gets in the Hall of Fame, whether that's going to hurt the integrity of the game? How about all the other things over the last 10 years that have hurt the integrity of the game? No more pitchers hitting in the National League. Bigger bases on the base paths. Runners starting on second like Little League in the extra innings of Major League Baseball. Position players coming into pitch on a regular basis in Major League Baseball, and guys just getting kind of free home runs, free base hits off them. The list goes on and on. Pitchers having to throw to a minimum amount of batters. You can only pick off a couple times. I think I said the bigger bases. What are we talking about here? If you want to defend the integrity of the game, how about you defend the integrity of the fact that we've had more changes in the sport of Major League Baseball, college baseball than ever before? You can't shift now. I guess we just gave up on hitters making adjustments and learning how to, not hit into the shift. Some hitters were able to do that, right? Now you can't shift. There's so many things that have been changed in the game. Like, to the casual fan, they think, oh, it's the same. To guys that have played at a high level, that have been around the game their whole life, they think, man, this is a totally different game than when I grew up. And it seems like the changes aren't stopping. I mean, if that golden at bat rule ever comes through, I don't know if I'll ever watch a Major League game. So the discussion right now is, is Pete Rose being let back into MLB and having the potential to go in the Hall of Fame, is that gonna be a big stain on the integrity of the game? Well, I've told you guys this. How about the stain of a vast number of Major League Baseball players being on stimulants legally? How about that? How about a lot of Major League Baseball players getting prescriptions for Adderall, not when they were in kindergarten, not when they were in elementary school, not when they were in middle school, not when they're in high school, not when they were in college, but after they struggled a couple years in AA and they went to a doctor and said, I can't focus. I can't concentrate. And then they get a TUE to be able to use Adderall in professional baseball. Now, you may say this to me, Kyle. Well, Kyle, that's that they have to. That's a test that they can't fake that. There's no way they can get past that test. They have to legitimately have an issue. Not true. I know two guys that I played with that literally told me they faked it because they saw the guys around them getting on these drugs and improving, being a totally different player. I saw a lot of guys that I played with. All of a sudden, they get on that stuff. Boom, career year. They're in the big leagues, and they're in the big leagues for the next 3 or 4 years because they get on it. They locked in. They change into a totally different player. So I honestly, I don't want to hear anybody, especially guys in the media, especially all these people on social media, talking about the integrity of the game being hurt by Pete Rose being reinstated. It's like, I didn't hear you say anything with all the stuff that went down, all these changes that have gone on. Nobody talks about it. The Adderall and the stimulant type thing. No one talks about that. You ask anybody in a AAA clubhouse if that's a thing, they'll tell you 100%, right? That was a discussion we had as a team in the AAA clubhouse on, hey, why are 5% of the population or even less on ADHD medication, but like 40% of professional baseball players are? Does that seem like a weird ratio? Does that seem like there could be people using that to gain an advantage? It's funny. Again, you guys may think, and the other thing I hear is this. Well, that doesn't help you out if you actually have the problem. It doesn't. It just makes you normal. Every single player, and I'm being dead honest, every single player that I knew of that got a TUE for Adderall or Vyvanse or something like that, the year they got on it, they had the best year of their career in the minor leagues. Every single one. And I'm not going to be the guy to like name names because again, it's in the past, it's whatever. But that is 100% a fact. I saw guys who couldn't hit 220 in AA get on it, get to AAA, and then they're hitting over 300. Guys that went from being 280 hitters to 320 hitters, guys, again, 220 hitters to 300 hitters, more power, more walks, guys that struck out like 40% of their at-bats, and all of a sudden in 1 year, they're spitting on like the closest pitches with 2 strikes. Pitchers that all of a sudden are super locked in, command's way better. They're not getting distracted. My argument was always this. My argument was always, hey, what about, okay, because this was the argument in our clubhouse. Well, Kyle, I can't lock in and focus in my at bats like you can, and that's not fair. And I thought, well, that's kind of a skill. It's not like I was born like that. I just kind of developed it, learned how to lock in, learned how to not let failure affect me. And my argument was this: okay, let's say that's true. Most of you guys in this room have more power than me. That's not fair. Can I take steroids? Can I take HGH? Can I take an illegal supplement that's going to give me more power? And immediately, no, that's totally different. That's totally different. No, it's not. It's the exact same thing. You're telling me there's a deficiency in your game that is not a deficiency in mine, and it's not fair that it's a deficiency for you. So you should be able to kind of equalize, and just to be honest, there's no equalization. All of a sudden, they are way better. Why can't I use that same underlying argument for me being able to take steroids? Right? So the integrity of the game, guys, in my opinion, has been totally destroyed in the last 10 years. Like, maybe destroyed's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you guys understand what I'm saying. The reality is that the game is totally different. Now everybody's stealing a bunch of bases. Well, I wonder why. Pitchers can only pick off twice. There's no strategy involved in lineup management anymore because everyone's got a DH. Right? You don't need a versatile bench you can use double switches. You got to pinch hit this guy and then got to move him to this position, move this guy to that position. You don't need to do that anymore. We got the pitch clock now, even though we're for arm health, but with all these changes, now arm injuries are skyrocketing. So in my opinion, the game is not progressing. It's regressing. It's getting worse. And the last thing on your mind if anyone out there who's complaining about the integrity of the game and, making sure the game is pure, the last thing you should be worried about is Pete Rose being re-approved into the MLB and possibly being put into the Hall of Fame. That's like the last thing you should be worried about. MLB, again, we're really upset about Pete Rose betting on baseball, but I don't see anybody complaining about MLB advertising like betting odds and betting lines and everything like that. And you hear stories from the players talking about, well, my social media is just full of DMs from degenerate gamblers who are telling me they're going to kill my kids and kill my wife and come find me. Right? I don't see any of you guys. I don't see a lot of you guys complaining about that. The fact that we're encouraging gambling on MLB Network, ESPN, all these other places, and then we're not really going to say anything when players are getting death threats and their kids are getting death threats because we've decided to promote gambling. But Pete Rose, he cardinal sin. He gambled on the game. You can't have it both ways. And in my mind, there's way bigger issues going on in baseball than Pete Rose being reinstated posthumously. However you say the word, right? The guy passed away. I think that counts as him serving his time, just to be fair. He's not going to see himself possibly honored in the Hall of Fame. And again, I see major media guys in the baseball world coming out and being like, "This, they should not be reinstated for the integrity of the game." And I'm like, dude, you're on your show, you're promoting gambling on the game, and players are getting death threats, and their wives and their kids are getting death threats. So I feel like there's a huge disconnect in what really matters in the game, what actually upholding the integrity of baseball means. Upholding the integrity of baseball means we don't make so many massive changes to the game that we're going to have like a whole nother category of players in the Hall of Fame because the game has changed so much. Like the numbers aren't going to, there's never going to be another 300 game winner. There's probably never going to, there's going to be very few 3,000 strikeout guys. There's going to be very few 300 career hitters. There's going to be nobody with 3,000 career hits, right? Those were all the benchmarks for the most part of a Hall of Fame hitter, right? We're still going to have guys with 500 home runs because the balls are juiced and the ballparks are getting smaller and everything like that. But there's going to be a whole new category of players that are going to be getting into the Hall of Fame because the game has changed so dramatically. And not just from the rules changes that I discussed earlier, but from the philosophy and the people that are running Major League Baseball, the people that are running Major League organizations. You guys have heard me again. You've heard me say this a bunch. Hitters are hitting way below 300, not because pitchers are just like unhittable now. I'm sorry. That's what people who have not played the game at a high level say, because, and rightfully so. I mean, they just don't have the experience to tell you, but I faced a lot of those guys in the big leagues. They're not unhittable. They're really good. They're big league pitchers. That's the point. They're the best pitchers in the game. But shouldn't the best hitters be able to adjust to the best pitchers? That's what's gone on for all the time that Major League Baseball has been around. Pitching has gotten slightly better year over year over year, decade over decade, and hitters have been able to match it. But somehow what they want you to believe, and again, you guys have heard me say this, but I have to hit this point home. What they want you to believe is that right around the time that analytics kind of took over Major League Baseball, all of a sudden pitchers got so much better that they're unhittable, even though the strike zone at the same time got this much tighter. So the strike zone got demonstrably smaller. Pitchers, you could say, all right, yeah, they've gotten better. Have they gotten any? Are they unhittable now? Did they just make this massive leap? No. Right? We know from the velocity data that, the 98 today is about 95, 96 in the early 2000s. So a guy throwing 95 now was a guy throwing like 92 in early 2000s. So when you see what everyone will say is, well, like guys back in the 90s were throwing like 88 and 90. Well, it's like, yeah, but the guns were not as accurate. So that's basically like them throwing low to mid 90s now. That's exactly what that is. But you've been sold a bill of goods that pitching's so much better, the hitters can't figure it out. No, you have a lot of guys running, professional organizations hitting strategy and hitting development that tell them strikeouts don't matter. We're going to swing for the fences. We're going to swing for extra base hits. And again, like you want to do that when you're heading the count, you're in a damage count, that's fine. But they're told with 2 strikes, hey, we don't really care if you shorten up or make an adjustment or just try to put the ball in play. And so what you've seen is that hitting has gone backwards. And the same time that pitching has, we're going to be honest, has gotten better, hitting has gotten worse. But the problem is what they're telling you the reason is totally wrong. They're telling you the pitching is way better and hitters just can't keep up with the pitchers. There's just no way. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, guys. Do you think the integrity of the game is damaged by Pete Rose being reinstated into the game? Or do you think that the integrity of the game has been damaged by all these changes, all the things I mentioned earlier? Let me know in the comments what you think. We'll be back tomorrow with another video.